Hey everyone and welcome back. My name is DFree and here today we're talking all about GT in Dragon Ball Legends. I have a lot of interesting things you guys are probably going to want to hear, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Listen through the video so we can hit all those talking points. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoy the video. If you guys are new as well, hit that subscribe. And if you guys have been a long time viewer, thank you so much for tuning in once again to the channel. And if you guys do have a moment, please be sure to hit that thumbs up when you get to the end of the video if you enjoyed what you saw. That being said, tune in tomorrow for some more stuff you're going to enjoy, in which we're going to be using a GT team. And I'll also, just to let you guys know a little bit of what we're doing as well upcoming, I will also be doing a 1 year later video for SS4 Vegeta, also alongside that the SS4 Goku, because those dudes are just over a year old. I will not be doing one for Super Baby 2 if you're wondering, but he'll probably wind up being in the video anyway. So that being said, let's go ahead and jump into today's topic. So like I said, Dragon Ball GT in Dragon Ball Legends is interesting. It is quite the enigma. It always has been. Now here's the deal, I'm sorry to say, if GT is your favorite team, they are not one of the best teams in the game anymore. That does not mean that you can't use this team and win versus the best teams in the game. That does not mean that their characters are all bad. That does not mean that you can't take SS4 Vegeta, for example, and decimate characters with his blast damage. I need to throw all those things out there, because when you make statements like this character isn't as good anymore, not the best team anymore, blah blah blah, people always try to come to the defense, and I'm not trying to say that to criticize the team or the character. It's just the reality of the fact that they don't get many parts to their team. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And most of their core is literally over a year old. So let's talk about that. So GT is mainly in the role that it's in. The issue with GT is that they hardly ever put characters out for this team. Why? Well, GT is depicted as being not as popular in Japan as far as I can tell. Everybody I ask says GT is not super popular out there. Obviously, people are going to like forms like SS4 and stuff like that. And you know, that isn't just in Japan, by the way. Like, there's just not as many people enjoy GT as they do with other content. So that's just kind of how things are. There also could be like recency bias, things like super content. You get the point. But GT, long story short, is automatically working from a disadvantage, as the popularity of the series isn't as high as the rest of the series overall. So that's the main reason why GT is very, very sporadic in releases in the game. Next, if you look at the cast of characters we've actually already gotten in the game, we have already gotten most of the major stuff from GT. Obviously, most notably missing is some stuff like SS4 Gogeta. Also, obviously missing is like SS3 Kid Goku. Also, there are other avenues. It's not like they're not going to never print another SS4 Vegeta, right? Like, they'll redo these characters. That's how these gacha games work. They'll redo them. They'll just give him a new kit, new pose, all that stuff, and he's good to go with another Vegeta, for example. No, that's not a hint at anything, for the record. That's just me explaining how these games work. So even though they've done most of their main antagonists, and there's that, but like in terms of new releases, unless they're retreading a character, the roster of characters they haven't done is not very expansive. Again, there's some hype stuff they haven't done, but the rest of what they haven't done is very, 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 very unappealing stuff. Like the rest of the Shadow Dragons, most people don't care about those characters. Other stuff like Par Brothers, I'd love that, but most people don't care about that. Legic, I believe his name is Legic. Anyways, most people aren't caring about that. You know, like there's other stuff that GT has, but nobody can even name, nobody really cares about, so it's just not, you know, they're probably never even going to add those characters to the game. They've already got Super 17, they got Omega, they've got Baby, they've got all the main villains of GT already in the game, alongside the main Goku forms, stuff like that. So that's kind of how GT has already been portrayed in the game. Now, again, they will redo characters, and there is some stuff that is missing. That's important to mention. But the reason why that was important to get through is the fact that GT has never had a consistent release. So there's always this thing going on in the game where they decide to buff one team and buff them through the roof. If you look at the way that the game has gone and teams have gone, what's a good example? If I look at, I always like to point back to this, but if we look at like the Future team, right here, like if we look at Future, prior to the anniversary and post-anniversary, just to name a few characters, this pretty much just, yeah, this whole top row didn't exist, okay? Prior to the anniversary, the 2-year anniversary, that whole top row didn't exist of characters. And then this Trunks was not Zenkai, so he was pretty bad and outdated. And it's like, dude, look at the rest of his roster. It's pretty unappealing, right? They always do this thing where they drop a bunch of characters for one team, and they kind of just do that for a little bit. And that also extends to Zenkais a little bit, too. This team has picked up this dude. They picked up a Zenkai, and they picked up another Zenkai not that long ago in the Gotenks. Like, they do this thing where they do this, right? And I can name numerous examples of that happening throughout the time period of the game. GT's never really got that treatment, and it's unfortunate because they decided to drop Super Saiyan Goku and Vegeta and then wait forever and they drop Super 17 and Kid Goku, and then wait forever, and then it's the anniversary, and they drop 2 characters, which it was supposed to be. These 2 are anniversary characters, by the way. And then they also waited forever to return this Goku. This Goku just came back. He wasn't in the game as a summonable option for people for like 5 months, which is a problem because you missed the window on this character being as good as he's going to be. So you've already get him outdated in a game that has massive power creep in terms of the rest of the game, right? Omega, he wasn't in the game for like 3 or 4 months, but still, there is an immense issue with that. But you look at the roster of these characters, I said I was going to do, I believe I said I was going to do a 1 year later video for this dude, because I am, and the Vegeta and Super Baby 2, because they came out at the end of 2019. So they're just over a year old now, and the rest of the team, other than those 2 new Sparkings and this EX Shenron, and I believe Rildo as well, are all literally over a year old. Just throw that out there in context. That immediately means that the team is not as good as any other team in the game. That's going to be very meta relevant because the core is way too old. And that leads me to the next topic with GT. Aside from the fact they've never been respected, and I think it's pretty obvious that they don't care about GT in terms of the devs of the game because of the fact that they've always done this. Either they don't care about GT whatsoever or they don't know how they want to build GT. And the problem with GT as a team is, yeah, GT as a tag, as a team is needed for characters like Sin Shenron or Rildo. It was needed. Okay, let me backtrack that. It was needed for those characters prior to this Z ability being created. Powerful Opponent is like their mega band-aid, mega band-aid tag in the game, because what it does is it allows you to take any main antagonist of the series at any point and throw them on a team together. And this is always going to be something that's good. It was a very good idea to produce this because it adds relevance to characters like Rildo, like Hit, for example, that otherwise, aside from like their sagas or whatever, really wouldn't have many tags, right? Just because there's not many options for them. I believe this tag was mainly produced for Jiren, but characters like Rildo are going to be good with it, right? So keep that in mind. But other than that, the tag was necessary for these characters for the most part, unless you look at, you know, saga-based Z abilities, which don't exist in GT for the most part right now anyway, as far as I can recall. So the problem with GT as in terms of like team construction is, let's say you get a new shiny Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. Where are you putting him? Are you going to put him on GT? Sure, you can put him on GT, but that's an automatically worse version of the team than putting him on Vegeta Family. Why? Because Vegeta Family has more modern units, has more updated units, and will probably get more often than the GT team will. So there's that. You automatically are going to strip him from that team and put him on this team because this is probably going to be a better core for him, a better team for him to run on. Same applies to the Gokus in this grouping. Same type of deal. Or like if they were to like Zenkai, the Super Saiyan Goku, which I really want them to do, but you know he's not running on GT. He doesn't even have their Z ability. He's running on Super Saiyans / Saiyans, and that's that. And also Sun Family if people really want to do that, but his best team's going to be alongside Super Saiyan Bardock exploding like he used to with all the damage and the crits and stuff. So like there are things like that that are happening with GT that kind of really make it difficult. And again, it applies to Super 17, even if he gets a new release or Zenkai, whatever, right? These characters are going to be on Regen or Androids or whatever team they're going to, but they're not here on GT, right? So it makes an issue with GT. So maybe some people also just want more GT representation in the game, period, and don't necessarily care if the characters aren't even actually used on a GT-based team. And that might be enough to make people happy because, again, Gogeta, he's going on fusions, right? People are going to use him on fusions. So this is the problem. I've been kind of leading to this a little bit with GT and how you fix it, right? Pretty much, if they care about the GT tag itself and want GT itself to be a team and have characters from this part of the series be on a team together, as you can always do, right? As you can always do. If they really want that to be a thing, they're going to have to find a way to, I don't almost like force characters to be here. I don't want to say that you want to do that because nobody likes when you have these unique abilities to say, oh, only be on this team. So they try to make it to where characters can be on multiple teams and function in different spots. Same goes with their Z abilities. Like these, that's why this dude has like Saiyan as a secondary Z ability and stuff like that. And I'll talk about the single stat Z abilities in a minute because that's another issue with GT as a whole that's kind of plagued this team and makes people not want to run it in the first place. So yeah, like they need to find a way to do something like that though, and people aren't going to like it, but it's going to be the best way to give the team itself usability. Say they get like, for example, like 2 or 3 new characters, 2 or so Zenkais, And the new characters and new Zenkais all pretty much want to be on a team together, all on GT, and you're good to go. And they don't have to like be Goku and Vegeta's. They can be like other variations. They could be like Super Baby, or like Sin Shenron maybe gets a Zenkai, things like that, that would make GT as a team good again. And obviously the Zenkais would need to be pretty good, pretty relevant. They can't be like Purple Sky or Vegeta, you know. But regardless though, those things would allow GT to climb back towards the top of the meta, coupling them with Omega and SS4 Full Power Goku, who are the most modern releases for this team and can still really be good in spurts, especially Omega. You know, things like that are going to allow them to work on this team and work pretty well, but they are going to need Z abilities that are forcing you to run this team. Otherwise, again, people are just going to strip these characters and put them on other teams, right? That's just how it is. And, you know, it doesn't really apply as much to a character like Sin Shenron, because, again, unless you're running him on a powerful opponent, you're not running him anywhere else. Unless you're running, I guess, colors, yellow, yellow, blue, anyone? Green, green, yellow, anyone? I don't know. So there's that. Now, the last thing I want to kind of talk about that's kind of issue, or been an issue for this team, is a single stat Z ability boost. So, I mean, like, I think they started to catch on to this, but they decided to pretty much drop all these characters, which are all pretty much core members of your team, that you want pretty much all these characters on your team so you can have the color synergy, right? So you can have the option to run whatever you want to run, right? You don't want to, at least I personally want to have more than 3 characters I always predetermine to take in every match. And there's a purple here, a blue here, a green here, a red here. Why wouldn't you want this, right? But they're all single stat Z abilities. Now, this doesn't apply as much as heavily to people that don't have higher start units, whether you farm a lot of co-op and things like that, and you really utilize, whether the guild mechanics and stuff like that, you really utilize the multi-Z power system in the game, or you spend a lot of money. It doesn't really matter. As long as you have these characters at a star level where you can get that secondary stat increase, that starts to pile on. GT doesn't really have that. GT just has the singular stat, but a very high value to the singular stat, which is good. It's good to have the high value, but this model is inherently flawed relative to the rest of the game. Why? Because you all of a sudden have a bunch of very high stat increases where you would be better off having the nice split of, instead of 38 at 7-star or 14-star, whatever, maybe 25 to attack and defense is going to be a lot more valuable to you, instead of a bunch of characters at like 38 maxed out, right? Again, most people aren't getting that, but just an example, right? They decided to do that, right? Now, the Shenrons don't have that. The Super Baby 2... Or excuse me, not Super Baby 2. Super 17 doesn't have that. There's a couple more in here, like Kid Goku, GT. He doesn't have that. These dudes don't really. They don't have it, but they don't really count because they have the Saiyan Z ability. So unless your team is all Saiyans, which Baby counts, but if you're running like Omega, he doesn't count. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, it's just kind of an issue with GT as a whole. So like, to kind of recap, GT's not super popular, so their releases are going to be spaced out. The problem with their releases being spaced out is that when you cycle back to these characters, their teams are outdated. In order to make GT relevant nowadays, they're going to need several new characters and several new Zenkais. They're going to need that treatment that they give every other... I don't get why they give every other team this treatment, but they don't give it to GT. I mean, like seriously, if you look back pre-anniversary to Vegeta family, they didn't have this Trunks. They didn't have the blue Vegeta right here. They didn't have LF Vegeta. They didn't have Trunks, the Kid Trunks right there. They didn't have a lot of stuff, right, in terms of their best characters on this team. And the same applies to pretty much everyone. Sun Family didn't, just a few months ago, like when Majin Vegeta came out, Sun Family didn't have all those Zenkais, but they got all of them since. So GT really needs that situation to happen for them where they just say screw it and just Zenkai, and then like 3 new characters, 2 new characters, and then you just have a whole new team, basically. And then you're good. But there's that too. And single stat Z abilities definitely do not help GT at all. And like I said, I want to see GT succeed. So stay tuned for the gameplay video on that team. But don't be afraid. Let me know your comments down below, your thoughts, your opinions, all that on GT. Let me know how you guys think they can improve GT. What are your thoughts on deciding to produce characters that only work on the GT team? Because I can tell you right now, I'm pretty sure that's the main hiccup with why GT doesn't get many character releases in general, is they want these characters to mainly function on that team, but you know, they just get stripped and ran everywhere else. But then that's also kind of counterintuitive when you give Super Saiyan 4 Goku Purple, who I'm looking at now, the Sun Family Z ability, right? It's counterintuitive to do that or say that when you give this guy that Z ability, right? So anyways, let me know what you guys think. Have an awesome day, and I'll be seeing all of you in the next video.